His resume is as impressive as it is diverse. From top producer at Merrill Lynch to head of the firm's investment, insurance, and 401k division during what was an enviable 18-year tenure. And then 7 years as CEO at TD Ameritrade, where client assets and market caps both increased more than tenfold. Shareholders saw a 500% return. Not a bad corporate record for a football coach who won high school and Ivy League championships and was offered a defensive staff position at the University of Miami in 1984. He spent the last year logging 70 hours a week as a volunteer consultant at Nebraska's football program. But he spent a lifetime crafting and perfecting the one trait that translates to all of these fields: leadership. The accomplished Joe Moglia joins us now on Leadership Conversation. Joe, welcome to Leadership Conversations.
Thanks, Roger.
Creighton University, where I know you're a member of the board and are active here. And welcome to this program where we're going to have a chance to learn the lessons of a remarkable life, one that is still even more remarkable each day. And with that, I would just say that one of the things, as you know, we try to do in this series is learn about the journey of remarkable people. How did you find yourself in the seat today as chairman of one of the most important financial companies? And how did you get here? What was the path that got you from New York many years ago to Omaha, Nebraska today? I would love to know about that. And we're going to, I know, learn a lot about you today, but this is where we'd like to begin. What's the story? How did you find yourself here?
Well, I grew up in the Dyckman Street section of Manhattan.
It's a rough area.
It's an inner city part of New York. And my dad was born in Italy.
Yeah.
He came to this country when he was 11. He never finished 8th grade. He sold bananas and apples in the Bronx and was a fruit man literally his entire life. He didn't retire until he was 80. My mom was born in Ireland. She came here to marry my dad when she was about 24. My mom never finished high school. So I was the oldest of 5 kids. 7 of us lived in a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment around the Dyckman Street area of Manhattan. For me, I kind of got involved with gangs from the time I was reasonably young. Now, these are not the types of gangs you talk about sometimes in South LA, where everybody has guns and are killing everybody. But these are gangs where I started drinking when I was 11, where you got in a fight every week. And one of the things that I think saved me was I was able to get out of my neighborhood, and I wound up going to Fordham Prep. Now, Fordham Prep, for those of you not aware of this, Fordham Prep, Fordham University is the same relationship in the Bronx as is Creighton Prep, Creighton University. Fordham Prep's all boys Jesuit Catholic school in the Bronx. And for me going there, I had an opportunity to truly participate in sports as well as focus on my academics. When I wasn't participating in sports, I was expected to be in my father's fruit store. And as I said earlier, it was a good thing because it got me out of my neighborhood. There were 2 guys that I was with literally every day in grammar school that both were killed in high school. Both had already dropped out of high school. One died of a drug overdose. The other one was killed by the police robbing the liquor store. I never got involved with drugs. That was one thing that I didn't do, but I think there's a good chance I might have been with the guy robbing the liquor store.
You don't remember that clearly, or was it just...
No, I remember that pretty clearly.
Okay, that's all right.
I remember that pretty clearly. And then my goal was to play football and baseball in college. Now, remember, my parents never really had an education, and my going to Fordham Prep was a big deal for them. Going on to college past high school wasn't as big a deal. And participation in sports for my father, he always thought that was a waste of time, and at some point in time, I would grow up from that. But I thought I was going to play football and baseball in college, and then my girlfriend got pregnant, and at 19, I became a father and a husband. This was one time in my life where I remember my dad was very supportive. That had not normally been the case in most of my 19 years. And Dad actually looked at this as an opportunity for me to quit school and work full-time with him in the fruit store. And I just felt if I worked full-time in the fruit store, I'm not sure I would have been able to do any of the things in my life that maybe I had thought about. So I wound up staying near home, and I wound up going to Fordham. But there was no money now, and I'm no longer participating in sports. So my freshman year, I am responsible for my own tuition, and I'm supporting my wife and daughter. And I drove a taxi cab for New York City. I drove a truck for the post office, and the other time I worked in my dad's store. Now, at the end of my freshman year, as you might think, this wasn't the most fun I've ever had in my life, and I thought I was going to blow my brains out. And what hit me was it was the first year of my life that I didn't have sports. So I went back to the prep and asked them if they considered giving me a coaching job, and they did. So over the span of the next 3 years, I majored in economics, thought I wanted to work on Wall Street as an investment banker. I'm not sure I knew exactly what that was at the time. And I coached football at the prep during the season, and the off season I worked, guess where? In my father's fruit store. And by the time I was graduating, Roger, what hit me was I really loved the experience that I had working with the kids. And I decided that if I could get my own head high school football job, I'd love to pursue a career in teaching and coaching. If not, I'd go to Wall Street. Well, I probably applied to 100 schools, and Archmere Academy, all-boys Catholic school in Claymont, Delaware, offered me the job as head football coach. And I was head football coach, freshman baseball coach. I taught European history, political science, and economics. And but I was at 22, to this day, I'm the youngest head high school football coach in the history of the state of Delaware. And I may not have been quite prepared to take on that challenge then. But I wound up, I'll get through this quickly now. I wound up then coaching football for 16 years. I turned 2 high school programs around. I coached defense at Lafayette, where we set 11 records, all school records and 1 national record for defense and kicking. I went on then to be the defensive coordinator at Dartmouth. I was there 3 years. We won 2 Ivy League championships. I had written a book on football. I authored 11 articles published in national coaching journals. I wound up in 2 Sports Hall of Fames. And there was no doubt in my mind that ultimately I would be a head college coach. And if I was really, really lucky at a place like Nebraska. And but my first year at Dartmouth, we're actually in the middle of a staff meeting, and it's October, and I think we're getting ready to play Harvard, and the sheriff from town comes in and interrupts the meeting, and he needs to see me, and I'm deathly afraid there's a horrible accident in the family, and he says, "Coach, I apologize for this," but he hands me divorce papers, and it wasn't particularly funny at the time, by the way. And so we now have 4 children, and I can't afford, on a coach's salary, to take care of myself and live independently and at the same time support my wife and children. So I moved into a storage room above the football office at Dartmouth. Now, I know it gets cold here in Omaha. Well, Hanover, New Hampshire, it gets really cold. And there was no heat in this loft. So I could see my breath there in the wintertime, and I wound up living there 2 years. I didn't mind that so much. But it hit me in the coaching profession, if you're going to move up, you can't move across the street. You have to pack up and move. And I didn't know how I was going to do that and live a distance now from my children and be able to live up to my responsibilities. That as a coach and helping boys become men, and at the same time taking care of my family. So I wrestled with that one. At the end of the '83 season, the following spring, in '84, coincidentally, that was the year Miami had upset Nebraska for the national championship. Miami offered me a job.